Hi, my name is Callie Spillane, and I am the Director of Talent at Mostly Talent, which is a sub-company of the Mostly Media business.
I'm hearing internal rumblings that the females of Mostly Media are angry at me that I didn't give enough heads up.
The common theme has been it's such a male thing to do to tell you that you're going to be on a podcast 30 minutes before.
By the way, congrats on making your first hire.
Thank you.
What's it been like to get the band back together and have to work with me again?
It's been great. Generally, it's been great. I still, in my mind, I visualize you being riding a scooter into an office in Boston with a helmet. So that's been funny just to go back from being in person with you to then going into being via screens. It's been really exciting. I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
Callie, give people a download of where you were working before this and what you were working on.
So I worked at companies like Superhuman, HubSpot, Sneak, Formlabs, which is a 3D printing company. So a bunch of different tech companies in an in-house recruiting role.
I think what made me really motivated to try to convince you to work here is you have this in-house experience. You weren't a headhunter beforehand. You were always a partner to helping, whether it was a CRO grow the team or even sometimes a CFO.
I love the in-house. That's where I tell people I grew up in-house in my career.
The real question is, why were you so hard to hire? Why did you hold out on me for so long?
Was I hard to hire?
You're a stern and formidable negotiator.
Do you know what's really interesting? I've been told that I tend to negotiate pretty directly. I thought that I put everything on the table.
Yeah, it worked. It definitely worked. I felt like you had some reps at this beforehand. I was thinking oh, it's someone who's worked in recruiting. Not that you're going to be a pushover or anything, but you're just going to be yeah, happy to take a look and this will work, this won't. You even came at it hey, if we're building a company together, we should figure out a way to incentivize getting more hires in the door. And you started referencing comp plans. And I think that's where my eyes lit up. I was oh, she actually wants to scale this thing.
Yeah, I don't want to just do a job to do a job. There has to be some motivation behind it.
You and your husband, Ryan, you both worked at HubSpot. Was he behind the scenes putting his sales brain to this, saying turn the screws to CJ when you asked for this?
No, a lot of the negotiation was from me, but I definitely had his contract view lens on it. He's also just really passionate about startups anyways. So for him, this whole venture has been really exciting.
Take me back to that WeWork on Boylston. I was running FP&A at the time. You were hiring over 100 salespeople a year. What was that look on my face?
So what's really interesting is when we were in Boylston, I was only there, I think 2 weeks before we went to the office. I'm pretty sure every time that one of the leaders in the company was yeah, we're going to hire this many people, I looked at you and you were we'll do it in budget. You were not happy with the amount of asks I had for additional budget on hiring.
It was a crazy time because for context, we raised 5 rounds of funding in 2 years, over $1 billion. And we went from 150 people to over 1,500 when we were there. It felt like a new company every 4 to 6 months.
When we started, it was just okay, this company has legs. And then all of a sudden COVID hit. And so 3 months in, it's okay, everyone pause for a second. What are we actually doing? It was you know what? We have an opportunity. Let's accelerate. And I remember having a conversation with the VP of HR at the time and talking about okay, well, the CEO wants to pull all of the sales headcount forward into for what was going to be fiscal year 21. We're going to pull it into Q1 of 2021. And I'm excuse me? How are we going to do that? It was really exciting. I can't believe how quickly we grew and scaled. When I think about the people that I work with and being in the trenches with them, that is a company where a lot was learned in those years.
Do any of those early days remind you of what we're doing now? What's your view on entrepreneurship? And we're truly going from 0 to 1. I think when me and you both joined that company, maybe we were at 0.5 going to 1.
I think that we were probably even in the 1, right? When you're at a series B going into series C, we were definitely in the 1, but it was hey, how do we go from 1 to 10? So this is by far my first venture in going 0 to 1. And what I'm grateful for is that I've had a lot of experience doing the 1 to 10. So there's things that I feel I can get ahead of, but I also don't want to be preventing myself from like just like doing and making sure that we're like providing for the people that we're working with and they're having a good experience.
Ethan Schechter, who we both worked closely with at Sneak, you were hiring for him. I was budgeting for him to break that budget. You would always joke, like, you don't want to hire stuff people who like show up and they're like, okay, where's my stuff? This is very much like not a stuff role. You have to come in and be like, oh, we need to do outbound for this role because we need to augment like how many people we have at the director level in this random city. Like, we could ask my wife maybe to help out and do some of the outbound, but there's no stuff.
No, there's no stuff. Like, honestly, CJ, I was just actually in Claude and I was trying to figure out a way to build something for us that helps me to stay organized across all the different employers that we're working with. I'm used to working in an ATS or something that like just really allows for me to stay organized and have my updates. And when you're working in an Excel file, it's all manual. And so Claude's helping me to like build a little bit of automation with a little bit of manual labor.
It's actually 4 months today that we've been working on this together. Is we had set a pretty ambitious goal. Like, do you think we could fill 20 roles by year end? And so we're 4 months in. We've won 9 heads to place 9 head count so far. First question, do you think you're going to pass out?
My anxiety level is high, but I also have a high bar for performance. And I think that like recruiting is always, you have to be a really strategic thought partner, but you also have to like do what you say you're going to do. And I have a high bar for what I expect in like providing for a client. And so I'm used to working in high growth environments, but there's a lot more tooling to help it be automated. So yeah, I'm on the threshold of passing out.
Well, it's also difficult because you have different stakeholders and like something that when I was speaking to you about joining, I'm like, I take it very seriously how we treat the candidates because none of this is possible if they don't want to work with us. And if they don't want to read the newsletter or listen to the podcast, like this all falls apart. You've spoken to over 110 people so far. What has your experience been?
Really eye-opening. I think there's a lot of people that have like put their names into the hat to say like, yeah, if the right opportunity comes up, like I'm happy to take a call. If one of them would have applied to a role that I was working on at any of my in-house companies, I would have been jumping for joy. Like that would have been wonderful. One, everyone loves you. Like whether it's an employer or whether it's a candidate, like people fan boy and girl over CJ, which again, like in my mind, you have on a helmet and you have your motorized scooter and you're like just beep beeping around Boston. I have that vision of you in my head as you're like this credible influencer who people just really enjoy your content and it's real. And it's not just like finance people that enjoy it. Like, you know, you brought up Ryan earlier. He loves it. He tells me all the time. He's like, wow, that's great. This is amazing. And, you know, you put out things that have allowed for others to really enjoy it. Super impressed by the people that I've spoken with so far.
That scooter finally broke after having it in my garage for like 9 years. Do you think this thing has legs at scale? You're 4 months in. When do you think this like really starts to like hum? Are we already there? Are we still figuring it out? How are you feeling?
It sways daily depending on what's going on. At one point, I felt like we had too many candidates and not enough employers. At one point, I feel like we have too many employers and not enough candidates. So we're in this like seesaw motion, but there's totally legs. And I think there's a lot, again, like a lot of credibility with who you are and what you do. There's a ton of great candidates and people who are interested in opportunities. So it's just going to be like matching the right people at the right times and ensuring that we're helping both parties.
Some days we wake up, we're like, we haven't had an inbound lead. Like our families are going to starve. We won't have any. My children need shoes. So for context, between the 3 of us, we have 6 kids, 4 and under. So we've got a lot of daycare bills to fill. And then other days we wake up like, how the hell are we possibly going to fill all these roles that people are going to pay us for? And so you oscillate between these 2 extremes of like, this can't possibly work out. If you were to try to just be a rational person and look down the middle, it's like, okay, I think it's working.
When I first started at HubSpot, I was a BDR. That was like how I got my first job. But that's how I met Ryan because he was an account executive on the team. And I remember just like being really sad or like frustrated one day. And he's like, you got to take the hits as they come. Like no high is too high, no low is too low. Like you got to stay in the middle. And it's just funny that like 15 years later, he's giving me that same advice, like on a day-to-day basis. And it's resonating between you and I as well as I'm like, CJ, I don't know what I'm going to do with all these people or I don't know what I'm going to do with all these clients. Like, how am I going to fill the right roles?
I made you take a call on your first day we really wanted to work with this incredible hiring manager, and we were still trying to figure out how to pitch ourselves. And like, I called you after and we both said the same thing. We totally fucked that call up. And every time we would have like a one-on-one, we're like, I really hope she wants to work with us down the road. Maybe just send one more email. And then like, for context, a week ago, this person finally came back to us out of the, like from the dead and said, hey, I would love help with this role. We're like, no effing way. Now we're trying to hire for her. But like a lot of this is, it's funny how there's a feedback loop and it's never as fast as you want it to be, but eventually you do figure out if it can work.
And I think like, again, we're what, on 90, 100 days of doing this? Like, we're still so early, and you're very good at reminding me about like the entrepreneur pieces where like, you just got to like know who you are, commit to your work ethic.
Half the game is staying in the game long enough for stuff to happen.
Yeah.
Last question. What did it feel like when that first commission check hit?
It was pretty awesome. I can see how it could be addicting. I think I'm a very motivated person. And so knowing that like I'm getting paid for my work is exciting.
Well, I'm excited to build this with you. I appreciate it.
It's been very fun.
I got news for you. The ERP category is finally getting disrupted. And if you haven't heard of Rillet yet, please pay attention. It's the AI native ERP built specifically to replace NetSuite, and it's already won over hundreds of finance teams. Their mission is to make the zero-day close a reality, and they're actually doing it. We're talking teams closing the books at 1:35 p.m. on the first day of the month. Companies like Windsurf, Mercor, and hundreds of others run their entire finance stack on Rillet. Revenue recognition, close management, multi-entity, native Stripe and Salesforce integrations. Woo! Everything a scaling company needs. They've got 50 stars on G2. They're backed by A16Z and Sequoia, heard of them, and CPA-led implementations that get you live in 45 days. That is simply unheard of in the ERP space. If your books aren't running as fast as your business, check out Rillet. Book a demo at rillet.com/CJ. That is RILLET.com/CJ. That's me.